The frame opens on a pair of eyes that do not belong to a vertebrate. They are too large, too perfectly circular, set against a field of warm brown and muted amber that resembles bark rather than skin. For a fraction of a second, the brain insists it is looking at the face of an owl, or perhaps a small mammalian predator staring back through the understory. Then the camera pulls wider, and the illusion resolves into its true architect. The owl butterfly, wings spread, motionless, presenting a false face with a confidence that feels almost confrontational. This is not camouflage in the traditional sense of disappearance or blending. This is a lie built to be seen, a visual trap that exploits the reflexes of predators rather than their inability to perceive detail. In the low light of the tropical forest floor, hesitation can be the difference between life and death. And the owl butterfly has evolved to manufacture that hesitation with extraordinary precision. The environment in which this deception operates is dense, layered, and visually noisy. Tropical forests are not static backdrops, but shifting mosaics of shadow, leaf movement, and filtered sunlight. Predators here hunt under constant sensory pressure. Birds, lizards, and small mammals must make rapid decisions based on incomplete information, often while navigating tangled vegetation and competing threats of their own. In such systems, speed is survival, but speed also creates vulnerability to error. The owl butterfly exploits this vulnerability not by hiding from view, but by inserting a moment of doubt into the predator's decision-making process. When its wings snap open, the sudden emergence of two oversized eye spots hijacks neural pathways tuned to recognize faces and forward-facing eyes, a cue that across many taxa signals danger, awareness, and the potential for retaliation. These eye spots are not simple markings. Each one is a carefully layered structure of pigment and scale arrangement that produces depth, contrast, and a glossy illusion of curvature. The outer ring is often darker, framing a lighter inner field that mimics the sclera of a vertebrate eye, while a darker central spot functions as a false pupil. The effect is amplified by wing posture. When threatened, the owl butterfly angles its wings so the eye spots face directly toward the source of disturbance, aligning with the predator's line of sight. This orientation matters. Predators are far more likely to hesitate when eyes appear to be looking directly at them rather than off to the side, a bias rooted deep in the evolution of prey detection and threat assessment. The butterfly does not need the predator to believe the illusion indefinitely. It needs only a pause, a brief recalculation, long enough to break the rhythm of attack. That pause has measurable consequences. Studies observing bird strikes on butterflies with eye spots show a consistent pattern. Attacks are often redirected away from the body and toward the wings. Beak marks cluster around the false eyes rather than the thorax or head, areas where damage would be immediately fatal. Wings can be torn and survive. Bodies cannot. The owl butterfly's lie is therefore not merely about intimidation, but about damage control. Even when the deception fails to fully deter an attack, it reshapes the geometry of risk, shifting impact to expendable tissue. In evolutionary terms, this is not perfection but sufficiency. Survival does not require avoiding all harm, only avoiding lethal harm long enough to reproduce. The irony of this strategy is that it makes the owl butterfly more visible, not less. At rest, when its wings are closed, the butterfly is cryptic, its undersides resembling dry leaves with veins, blemishes, and irregular edges that blend seamlessly into the forest litter. But when disturbed, it abandons invisibility entirely. This switch between concealment and intimidation reflects a broader principle in defensive evolution. No single strategy is optimal in all contexts. The forest floor demands stillness and blending during rest, while escape demands spectacle. The owl butterfly has evolved to toggle between these modes, deploying whichever deception best fits the immediate threat. Predators in this system are not passive participants. Over evolutionary time, they too adapt, learning which signals correlate with real danger and which do not. This creates an arms race, a constant recalibration of deception and detection. Yet eye spots persist across many butterfly species and lineages, suggesting that the basic cognitive bias they exploit is difficult to erase. The cost of ignoring a real predator face is death. The cost of hesitating before a false one is usually minimal. Natural selection therefore favors caution, even when it occasionally leads to missed meals. The owl butterfly's success lies in anchoring its lie to this imbalance, knowing that fear is often favored over certainty. The forest itself amplifies the effect. Light filtering through the canopy creates high contrast patches that make sudden visual signals more jarring. When the owl butterfly flashes its wings, the eye spots appear abruptly against the darker background of leaf litter and shadow. This sudden onset is critical. Gradual signals are easier to assess and dismiss. Abrupt ones trigger reflexive responses before conscious evaluation can intervene. The butterfly often pairs this display with a short, erratic movement, enhancing the impression of a startled, reactive organism rather than an inert insect. The combination of motion and gaze taps into predator neural circuits evolved for split-second decisions, forcing a delay that the butterfly converts into escape. What makes this strategy particularly effective is its generality. The eye spots do not need to resemble a specific predator species. They need only to approximate the minimal features that define something that can see me. Forward-facing eyes, high contrast, symmetry, and size disproportionate to the butterfly's body all contribute to this impression. This abstraction allows the lie to function across a wide range of predator types, from birds to small mammals, each interpreting the signal through its own perceptual framework, but arriving at the same conclusion: pause. This pause reverberates through the ecosystem. Predators that hesitate lose opportunities, which can influence foraging efficiency and territory use. Butterflies that survive contribute to pollination networks, moving pollen between understory plants as they feed. The owl butterfly's deception, therefore, has indirect effects beyond its own survival, shaping interactions among plants, predators, and competitors. Even damage to wings, while costly, does not remove the butterfly from the system. It may fly less efficiently, alter its behavior, or choose safer foraging routes, subtly shifting ecological flows rather than disappearing from them entirely. There is a temptation to frame such adaptations as clever tricks or acts of intentional deception, but the reality is more impersonal and more powerful. No owl butterfly decides to intimidate. The pattern exists because generations of individuals whose markings triggered hesitation lived slightly longer than those whose markings did not. Over time, those fractions accumulated into a visual language that predators now read instinctively. The lie is not conscious, but it is precise, tuned by countless failed encounters and near misses encoded in the genome. Seen through this lens, the owl butterfly's eye spots are not just defensive markings, but records of predator psychology written in pigment and scale. They reveal what predators fear, how they see, and where their attention lingers in moments of uncertainty. The butterfly survives by becoming a question rather than an answer, forcing its attacker to ask, however briefly, whether this is a risk worth taking. In that suspended moment, wings beat, bodies turn, and the forest closes again, leaving behind only a torn edge of wing or a fading impression of eyes that were never real. At first glance, the forest seems empty, its vertical lines repeating endlessly in trunks, vines, and hanging stems that sway gently in the humid air. The camera drifts forward through this lattice of wood and leaf, and nothing appears to move with intention. Then, slowly, one branch shifts in a way that feels almost thoughtful, its motion delayed, slightly out of sync with the rest of the vegetation. Only when the wind drops and the forest stills does the truth emerge. The branch is alive. A stick insect remains suspended among real twigs, its elongated body aligned with the grain of the plant, legs extended at angles that mimic secondary stems. Color alone did not hide it. Discipline did. The habitat of the stick insect is a visual battlefield defined not by brightness or bold contrast, but by motion. Insects that live among foliage are surrounded by textures that repeat endlessly. Leaves overlap leaves, stems intersect stems, and shadows fracture outlines into fragments that are difficult to pass. In such environments, predators do not rely solely on shape or color to detect prey. They rely on movement. Birds scanning from above, reptiles perched on trunks, and even predatory insects hunting at close range are tuned to notice deviations from the background's natural rhythm. A leaf trembling in isolation, or a branch snapping too sharply into stillness, can betray a living body faster than any mismatch of pigment. The stick insect survives by mastering this rhythm rather than escaping it. Its body plan is already extreme, stretched into a narrow silhouette that minimizes surface area and breaks the expectation of an animal's form. Legs are long, thin, and jointed in ways that echo the angles of real branches. Even the head, often slightly elongated, continues the illusion of linearity rather than interrupting it with a rounded profile. But morphology alone is not enough. Many animals resemble their environment, yet are still caught the moment they move. The stick insect's defining adaptation is behavioral, a form of motion control so precise that it turns movement itself into camouflage. When wind passes through the canopy, it does not move every branch equally. Some stems sway deeply, others barely respond, and some lag behind, reacting only after the surrounding leaves have already shifted. The stick insect exploits this complexity. Rather than freezing completely, it engages in a slow, deliberate rocking motion known as sway behavior. The insect leans forward and back, side to side, at a pace that mirrors the oscillation of nearby vegetation. This is not random. Observations show that stick insects adjust the amplitude and timing of their sway depending on wind intensity and the flexibility of the plant they occupy. On a stiff branch, the motion is minimal. On a soft stem, the movement becomes more pronounced. Stillness here is not the absence of motion, but the perfect imitation of environmental motion. Predators searching visually are confronted with a paradox. Their brains are wired to filter out repetitive background movement in order to focus on novel signals. A leaf moving with the wind becomes noise, not information. The stick insect inserts itself into that noise, synchronizing its motion so precisely that it disappears into the pattern. When it does move independently, such as when stepping to a new position, it does so with agonizing slowness. Limbs lift and place themselves over the course of many seconds, sometimes minutes, ensuring that no sudden acceleration triggers a predator's attention. In effect, the insect behaves less like an animal and more like a plant responding to physical forces. This strategy has consequences beyond visual concealment. Maintaining such control requires constant sensory input. Stick insects possess mechanoreceptors in their legs that detect vibration and air movement, allowing them to assess wind conditions in real time. These sensors inform not only sway behavior, but also posture. During strong gusts, the insect may align its body parallel to the direction of movement, reducing drag and preventing unnatural bending. During calm periods, it may freeze entirely, locking joints in place and relying on muscular endurance to maintain the pose. This level of stillness is metabolically expensive, yet far cheaper than fleeing or regenerating lost limbs after an attack. The effectiveness of movement discipline becomes clear when considering the predators involved. Birds, among the primary hunters of stick insects, have acute vision and fast reaction times. They often scan branches in sweeping motions, looking for abrupt shifts or isolated movement that stands out from the background. A stationary insect that suddenly scurries is immediately exposed. A swaying insect that moves when everything else moves becomes invisible. Even when a bird lands nearby, causing branches to shake, the stick insect's response is not to flee, but to exaggerate its plant-like behavior, increasing sway or going rigid, depending on the disturbance. The lie is sustained not by panic, but by restraint. This approach also shapes the insect's daily rhythm. Stick insects are predominantly nocturnal, feeding under cover of darkness when visual predators are less effective. At night, movement becomes safer, allowing the insect to reposition, feed, and mate with reduced risk. By day, it returns to its role as vegetation, remaining exposed yet unseen for hours at a time. This division of activity reduces the need for rapid escape responses and reinforces the reliance on camouflage through behavior rather than speed or defense. The forest benefits from this quiet existence. Stick insects are herbivores, feeding primarily on leaves, and their slow, dispersed feeding patterns prevent overexploitation of any single plant. Unlike swarming insects that can strip vegetation quickly, stick insects take small amounts over long periods, integrating into the plant community without overwhelming it. Their presence also supports predators that occasionally succeed in detecting them. contributing to food webs without dominating them. Survival through subtlety allows coexistence rather than disruption. There is an understated irony in this strategy. The stick insect invests enormous energy into not being noticed, yet it lives fully exposed, perched openly on branches rather than hidden in crevices or underground. It relies on the assumption that predators will overlook what appears normal. This is not deception through disguise alone, but through expectation management. Predators expect prey to behave like animals. When something behaves like a plant, it falls outside the category of threat or opportunity. Even damage does not always end the illusion. Stick insects are capable of autotomy, shedding a limb if grasped. In juveniles, these limbs can regenerate over subsequent molts, restoring functionality. An adult missing a leg may still maintain the branch-like outline, adjusting posture to compensate. The loss becomes another irregularity that mimics broken twigs or damaged stems, reinforcing rather than undermining the disguise. Survival is not perfection, but persistence. Over evolutionary time, this discipline has been refined through countless encounters that went unnoticed. Individuals that moved too quickly were removed from the gene pool. Those that matched the forest's tempo remained. The result is an animal whose primary defense is patience, whose greatest weapon is restraint. In a world that rewards speed and aggression, the stick insect thrives by waiting, swaying gently with the wind, trusting that in a forest full of branches, the most convincing branch is the one that behaves exactly like the rest. The monarch butterfly enters the frame already in motion, wings beating with a steady, unhurried confidence that feels almost out of place against the urgency of the landscape below. The air above the meadow shimmers with heat, grasses bowing slightly under the weight of late summer, and yet the butterfly does not hurry. Its orange wings flash in the sunlight, bordered sharply in black, veins traced like stained glass. This is not an animal attempting to disappear. It is announcing itself. In a world where survival often depends on secrecy, the monarch chooses visibility, trusting that being seen is safer than being overlooked. The environment the monarch inhabits is expansive and exposed. Open fields, roadside margins, agricultural edges, and seasonal grasslands offer little in the way of shelter. Predators here rely heavily on sight. Birds scan from perches and on the wing, reptiles patrol the ground, and insects hunt among flowers. For a soft-bodied, slow-flying insect, this should be a death sentence. Yet monarchs persist in these open systems year after year, their populations rising and falling not because they are easy prey, but because their survival hinges on a different kind of defense, one rooted not in escape, but in consequence. The story begins not with the adult butterfly, but with the plant it depends on as a larva. Milkweed grows thick and low, its leaves broad and rich with chemical compounds designed to deter herbivores. Among these compounds are cardiac glycosides, toxins that interfere with the sodium-potassium pumps essential for muscle and nerve function in many animals. For most insects, feeding on milkweed is lethal or debilitating. Monarch caterpillars, however, possess physiological adaptations that allow them to consume these leaves without succumbing to the poison. Specialized mutations in their cellular pumps reduce sensitivity to the toxins, allowing the caterpillars to feed, grow, and sequester the chemicals within their own tissues. This sequestration is not accidental. As the caterpillar feeds, it stores the toxins in its body, carrying them through metamorphosis into the adult butterfly. The result is an insect whose bright wings are paired with internal chemistry that makes it a costly meal. Birds that consume monarchs often experience immediate distress. Some vomit shortly after ingestion. Others suffer lingering nausea and weakness. Rarely is the experience fatal, but it does not need to be. The lesson is delivered swiftly and memorably. One bite is enough. Predator learning is central to this system. Birds are intelligent, capable of forming long-term associations between visual patterns and outcomes. When a young bird encounters a monarch for the first time, it may attack, driven by instinct and hunger. The result is unpleasant, sometimes violent, and always instructive. Over time, that bird learns to associate the monarch's distinctive orange and black pattern with toxicity. Future encounters are avoided, often without a test bite. This learned aversion can persist for years, shaping feeding behavior across entire regions. The monarch's survival is therefore not just individual, but collective. Each toxic encounter educates a predator, reducing risk for every monarch that follows. The wings themselves function as a warning label. High contrast colors, bold outlines, and consistent patterning ensure that the signal is unmistakable. In low light, the orange remains visible. In bright sun, the black borders sharpen the silhouette. From a distance, the pattern resolves quickly, minimizing ambiguity. This clarity is crucial. Warning coloration only works if predators can recognize and remember it. A muted or variable signal would invite repeated testing, increasing mortality. The monarch's pattern has remained remarkably stable over evolutionary time, a testament to its effectiveness. There is a subtle trade-off embedded in this strategy. Being toxic does not make the monarch invincible. Some predators, such as certain insects and parasites, are unaffected by the toxins. Others, including some birds, can tolerate small doses or selectively consume less toxic individuals. Additionally, not all monarchs are equally poisonous. Toxicity varies depending on the species of milkweed consumed during the larval stage. Some milkweed species contain higher concentrations of cardiac glycosides than others, leading to stronger chemical defenses. This variation introduces risk. A predator that encounters a less toxic monarch may experience only mild discomfort, weakening the learned association. Yet even here, the system holds. The cost of ignoring the signal remains unpredictable, and unpredictability favors caution. The monarch's confidence extends beyond feeding interactions. Its flight is slow and buoyant, lacking the erratic evasive maneuvers seen in palatable butterflies. This is not a weakness, but a consequence of reduced selection pressure for speed. When predators avoid you, there is less need to flee. Energy can be allocated elsewhere, into reproduction, migration, and longevity. Monarchs are capable of extraordinary journeys, traveling thousands of kilometers across continents during seasonal migrations. This endurance is supported by their unhurried flight style and efficient energy use, traits that would be impossible to maintain if constant evasion were required. Migration introduces another layer to the warning system. Monarchs that emerge late in the season enter a migratory generation, living far longer than their summer counterparts. These individuals travel vast distances to overwintering sites, often clustering in dense aggregations. Their toxicity persists throughout the journey, and their warning coloration remains intact, broadcasting the same message across entire landscapes. Predators along the route encounter the signal repeatedly, reinforcing avoidance at a continental scale. The monarch becomes not just a local warning, but a moving lesson carried across ecosystems. The ecosystem responds accordingly. Flowers benefit from monarch pollination, even as the butterflies feed selectively. Predators adjust their diets, focusing on alternative prey. Mimic species exploit the system, evolving similar color patterns without the same chemical defenses. This mimicry adds complexity. Predators may occasionally test the signal again, especially if they encounter a palatable mimic. Yet the risk remains asymmetric. The potential cost of mistaking a monarch for a harmless lookalike is still higher than the cost of avoiding both. As long as toxic monarchs outnumber mimics, the system remains stable. What appears at first glance to be a fragile creature drifting through open air is in fact a mobile chemical warning sign, its beauty inseparable from its danger. The monarch does not rely on speed, armor, or aggression. It relies on memory, on the ability of other animals to learn and remember pain. Its wings are not decoration. They are a message written in color and contrast, legible across species boundaries. Pretty in this context is not an aesthetic accident. It is a survival strategy refined through generations of trial, error, and learned avoidance. In the end, the monarch's success is not about domination, but about trust in a system that remembers. Each time a predator turns away without attacking, the message has worked. The butterfly continues its flight, unhurried, exposed, and alive, carrying with it the accumulated consequences of every bad bite that came before. The camera settles into a forest edge where sunlight does not arrive as a single beam, but as fragments. Leaves above fracture the light into moving patches, bright and dark shifting constantly as the canopy breathes with the wind. This is a place of broken information. Shapes are incomplete, colors interrupted, outlines dissolving and reforming with every passing cloud. In this visual chaos, a leopard lacewing rests with wings open, its pattern sharp and unapologetic. Creamy whites, deep blacks, and warm ochre spots collide across the wing surface in a design that seems too bold to be safe. And yet, within this restless mosaic of light and shadow, the butterfly vanishes, not by matching the background, but by dismantling itself. Predators do not see the world as a continuous photograph. Their vision is an act of sorting, an attempt to extract meaningful shapes from overwhelming sensory input. In habitats like forest margins and woodland clearings, this task becomes especially difficult. Light filters through multiple layers of foliage, producing high-contrast patches that slide across surfaces and distort perception. Branches cast sharp lines, leaves create flickering voids, and the boundary between object and background is constantly renegotiated. The leopard lacewing has evolved not to disappear into this environment, but to weaponize its instability. Its survival strategy is rooted in the science of edge detection, the way visual systems identify prey by recognizing continuous outlines rather than exact color matches. The butterfly's wings are a study in disruption. Large blocks of light color are cut through with dark veins and spots, creating abrupt transitions that refuse to resolve into a single form. Where one expects the smooth, symmetrical outline of an insect, the pattern inserts visual noise. The eye struggles to trace the edge of the wing because the contrast inside the wing competes with the contrast between wing and background. In dappled light, the internal pattern aligns with patches of sun and shadow behind it, causing the true silhouette to fragment. The predator's visual system, searching for the familiar geometry of prey, fails to complete the shape. This is not camouflage in the sense of blending. The leopard lacewing does not aim to become leaf-colored or bark-textured. Instead, it attacks the predator's ability to group visual information. Many predators rely on Gestalt principles of perception, rules by which the brain organizes fragments into coherent objects. One of the strongest of these rules is continuity, the assumption that edges belong together unless proven otherwise. The lacewing's pattern undermines this assumption. Dark spots intersect the wing margin, breaking the continuity of the edge. Light patches spill inward, dissolving the boundary between inside and outside. The result is an object that refuses to be recognized as a single entity. The effectiveness of this strategy depends heavily on lighting conditions. In uniform light, the butterfly is more visible, its pattern resolves clearly, and the insect shape becomes easier to identify. But in broken light, which dominates its preferred habitat, the pattern comes alive. As the sun shifts and leaves move, the contrast on the wings appears to change, even though the pattern itself remains fixed. This dynamic interaction between static pattern and moving light creates the illusion of motion without actual movement, further confusing predators that are tuned to detect change. The butterfly can remain completely still and yet seem visually unstable, an object that never quite locks into focus. Stillness is essential here. Unlike insects that rely on rapid escape, the leopard lacewing often rests openly on vegetation during the day. Its posture is deliberate, wings held flat to maximize the disruptive pattern. Movement would betray the illusion, reasserting the insect's unity as a single object. By remaining motionless, the lacewing allows the environment to do the work, letting wind and light break it apart visually. This passive cooperation with environmental forces is a hallmark of advanced camouflage strategies. The animal does not fight the background. It recruits it. Predators in this system include birds with acute vision capable of detecting fine detail at distance. These hunters are adept at recognizing prey shapes even when colors vary, yet even their visual systems have limits. When edges are inconsistent and outlines unstable, recognition slows. A moment of uncertainty may be all it takes. The bird's gaze passes over the butterfly, failing to register it as food. Attention shifts elsewhere, perhaps toward a moving insect or a clearer silhouette. The lacewing survives not because it is invisible, but because it is visually unresolved. There is an ecological elegance to this approach. The butterfly's pattern does not depend on matching a specific background. It works across a range of vegetation types, as long as the light is complex. This flexibility allows the lacewing to occupy varied microhabitats along forest edges, clearings, and secondary growth. It is not tied to a single host plant appearance or bark texture. Instead, it depends on the physics of light filtering through leaves, a reliable feature of its environment across seasons and locations. This strategy also influences predator behavior at a broader scale. Predators that repeatedly fail to detect prey in certain visual contexts may adjust their hunting tactics, focusing on areas with more uniform lighting or relying on movement cues instead. In doing so, they indirectly shape the distribution of prey species, creating pockets of relative safety where disruptive patterns are most effective. The lacewing benefits from this feedback loop, thriving in visually complex spaces that predators learn to treat as low-yield hunting grounds. The wings themselves are delicate, yet their role in survival is profound. Any damage that alters the pattern can reduce effectiveness, making edge continuity easier to resolve. This creates strong selective pressure for wing integrity and precise pattern reproduction. Individuals with clearer fragmentation survive longer, reproduce more, and pass on the genes responsible for optimal contrast placement. Over generations, the pattern becomes refined not for beauty, but for perceptual sabotage. There is a quiet irony in how conspicuous the leopard lacewing appears when removed from its environment. Against a plain background, the butterfly is striking, even dramatic. Humans, whose visual systems are less attuned to rapid edge detection for survival, interpret the pattern as decorative. In the forest, however, that same pattern is functional, dissolving the butterfly into a collage of unrelated fragments. Beauty, in this context, is an accidental byproduct of efficiency. Camouflage is often imagined as the art of becoming the background. The leopard lacewing demonstrates a more subtle truth. In many environments, the background itself is unstable. Light shifts, shadows move, and edges are rarely clean. The most effective camouflage does not attempt to replicate a single element of this chaos, but to participate in it. By breaking its own outline, the lacewing avoids being categorized, slipping through the cracks of predator perception. As the camera pulls back, the butterfly remains where it was, unchanged. Leaves continue to sway, sunlight continues to fracture, and the forest resumes its restless motion. Somewhere nearby, a predator scans the scene, eyes moving quickly, searching for order. The lacewing offers none. Its edges dissolve, its shape refuses to cohere, and in that failure of recognition, survival is secured. The scene opens low to the ground, where sun-warmed soil meets the base of trees and the scattered debris of fallen leaves. Here, the world is loud in color, even when it is quiet in sound. Against bark, stone, and dry grass, clusters of small insects gather openly, their bodies marked in sharp red and black patterns that seem almost reckless in their visibility. These are firebugs, moving slowly, unconcerned with concealment, congregating in groups that can number in the dozens. Nothing about their behavior suggests fear. They do not scatter at the first shadow. They do not sprint for cover. Instead, they remain exposed, as if daring the world to make a mistake. In most ecosystems, visibility is a liability. Predators are drawn to contrast, to motion, to anything that breaks the visual monotony of the ground. Firebugs do all three at once. Their coloration is bold, their movements deliberate, and their tendency to cluster amplifies their presence. Yet this apparent vulnerability is the foundation of their survival strategy. Firebugs are practitioners of aposematism, a biological warning system in which prey advertise their unprofitability through conspicuous signals. The message is simple but powerful. Attacking me will not end well for you. The effectiveness of this strategy depends not on immediate deterrence, but on education. Firebugs are not fast. Their bodies are soft, their legs unsuited for rapid escape. If a predator were determined to catch them, it could. But predators, particularly vertebrates like birds and small mammals, do not operate on impulse alone. They learn. Aposematic coloration leverages this learning capacity by pairing a strong visual signal with a negative experience. In the case of firebugs, that experience often comes in the form of chemical defenses that make them taste unpleasant or cause mild irritation when consumed. Firebugs feed primarily on plant matter, including seeds and sap, and in doing so, they incorporate defensive compounds into their bodies. While not lethal, these chemicals are enough to create discomfort, nausea, or a bitter taste that lingers. A predator that bites into a firebug is unlikely to enjoy the experience. The cost is not high enough to be fatal, but it is memorable. That memory is what matters. Once the association between the red and black pattern and the unpleasant outcome is formed, the predator begins to avoid similar-looking prey altogether. This is where clustering becomes essential. A single brightly colored insect might be dismissed as an anomaly, its signal too rare to register as a rule. A group, however, reinforces the lesson. When firebugs gather in large numbers, they create a concentrated visual display that is difficult to ignore. Predators encounter the pattern repeatedly, often in the same location, accelerating the learning process. One bad bite may teach caution, but repeated exposure without reward cements avoidance. The signal becomes louder, not through sound or size, but through repetition. Clustering also reduces individual risk. In a group, the likelihood that any one firebug will be attacked decreases. Predators that test the signal typically do so only once or twice before abandoning the attempt. Those unlucky individuals that are sampled contribute to the survival of the rest by strengthening the predator's aversion. This dynamic reflects a form of communal defense, where the cost paid by a few benefits the many. It is not altruism in the conscious sense, but an emergent property of shared signaling. The environment amplifies this effect. Firebugs are often found in open, sunlit areas where visual signals travel far. Warmth is important to them, as they rely on external heat to regulate body temperature. By basking together, they raise their collective temperature more efficiently, increasing activity levels and metabolic function. This thermoregulatory benefit reinforces clustering, aligning physiological needs with defensive strategy. The same behavior that keeps them warm also makes their warning signal more effective. Predators navigating these spaces are faced with a choice. They can invest time and energy testing prey that is slow and obvious, but potentially unpleasant, or they can focus on less conspicuous targets that promise a more predictable reward. Natural selection favors efficiency. Over time, predators learn that bright red and black clusters are not worth the effort. The lesson persists, passed down not genetically but culturally through individual experience. Young predators observing adults avoid certain prey may adopt the behavior without direct testing, further strengthening the system. This learned avoidance has ripple effects throughout the ecosystem. Other species that share similar coloration may benefit indirectly, even if their own defenses are weaker. Conversely, predators that specialize in overcoming chemical defenses may exploit these clusters, adding complexity to the interaction. The firebug's strategy is not foolproof, but it does not need to be. It only needs to work often enough to allow populations to persist. The confidence of firebugs extends to their reproductive behavior. They mate openly, often remaining coupled for extended periods in plain sight. This prolonged exposure would be catastrophic for species that rely on stealth. For firebugs, it is inconsequential. Their warning signal remains active throughout the process, broadcasting the same message regardless of vulnerability. In doing so, they demonstrate a crucial aspect of aposematism: consistency. A warning signal that is only sometimes reliable invites testing. One that is always present builds trust. Even if that trust is rooted in fear, there is an evolutionary patience embedded in this strategy. Aposematism does not offer immediate protection to every individual. It relies on the slow accumulation of predator experience across time and space. Early in the evolution of such signals, brightly colored individuals may suffer higher predation until the association is established. Once it is, the balance shifts dramatically. The persistence of firebugs and similar species indicates that this threshold has long been crossed in their ecosystems. From a human perspective, the firebug's coloration is often described as striking or attractive, a small aesthetic pleasure against the muted tones of soil and bark. This reaction highlights a fundamental difference between human perception and predator perception. Where humans may see beauty, predators see warning. The same pattern communicates different information depending on the observer's evolutionary history and sensory priorities. For birds and mammals, red and black often signal danger, toxicity, or aggression. The firebug exploits this bias with remarkable efficiency. As the camera pulls back, the cluster remains intact, a living signal pulsing quietly in the sunlight. Leaves rustle, shadows pass overhead, and potential predators move through the periphery of the frame without approaching. The firebugs do not flee. They do not need to. Their defense has already been deployed, not through speed or strength, but through knowledge embedded in the minds of their enemies. In teaching predators to stop before they start, the firebugs transform vulnerability into stability, proving that in nature, the most powerful weapon is often a lesson learned once and never forgotten. The ground beneath the cotton plants is sunlit and exposed, a patchwork of pale soil, fallen leaves, and the rigid geometry of stems rising upward. In this open space, where concealment is scarce and shadows are thin, a cluster of small insects gathers openly on seed pods and low vegetation. Their bodies are marked in vivid reds and deep blacks, patterns so bold they seem almost deliberately provocative against the muted landscape. These are red cotton bugs, moving slowly, feeding in groups, making no effort to hide. In a habitat where most prey survives by avoiding attention, their behavior appears reckless, yet this visibility is not a failure of defense. It is the defense. Predators scanning these fields rely heavily on sight. Birds search from above, their vision tuned to detect contrast and movement against the ground. Lizards patrol the soil, alert to disturbances that suggest edible life. In such environments, exposure usually carries a high cost. But the red cotton bug operates under a different logic, one that inverts the usual relationship between being seen and being eaten. Its survival strategy is rooted in social amplification, a process by which individual warning signals are reinforced through collective display, accelerating predator learning and dramatically reducing the likelihood of repeated attacks. Like other insects with warning coloration, the red cotton bug is chemically defended. Its diet includes plant material that contains compounds unpalatable to many predators. These chemicals are not powerful enough to kill, but they create an unpleasant sensory experience, producing bitterness, irritation, or mild toxicity. For a predator, the cost of sampling such prey is immediate and memorable. The bug's coloration advertises this cost before any contact is made, broadcasting a clear message: this is not an easy meal. However, what sets the red cotton bug apart is how insistently that message is delivered. The bugs rarely appear alone. They aggregate in groups that can range from a handful of individuals to dense clusters covering stems and seed pods. Each insect carries the same visual code, the same red and black pattern repeated again and again within a small area. To a predator, this repetition is impossible to ignore. Even from a distance, the cluster resolves into a single, amplified signal, far more conspicuous than any solitary insect could be. The environment itself contributes to this effect. Open fields offer little visual clutter, allowing the warning colors to stand out sharply against the background. The message travels far, long before the predator is close enough to consider an attack. This repetition speeds learning. Predator avoidance is not instantaneous or innate in most cases. It develops through experience. A young bird encountering a red cotton bug for the first time may strike, driven by curiosity or hunger. The outcome is unpleasant, perhaps involving regurgitation or lingering discomfort. That alone can be enough to discourage a second attempt, but the presence of many identical insects nearby reinforces the lesson. The predator sees the same pattern repeatedly, each instance linked in memory to the same negative outcome. The association becomes strong and durable. Over time, the predator learns not only to avoid individual bugs, but to avoid entire patches of color. Social amplification reduces the cost paid by any one individual. In a cluster, the likelihood that a predator will single out a specific bug decreases. Even if one insect is attacked, the predator's learning benefits the entire group. Subsequent encounters are less likely, as the predator now recognizes the signal and chooses to avoid it altogether. This dynamic transforms vulnerability into collective safety. The group functions as a shared warning sign, its effectiveness growing with size. There is a deeper layer to this strategy. The red cotton bug's aggregation is not solely defensive. It also serves physiological and ecological purposes that align with the warning signal. By clustering in sunlight, the bugs can regulate body temperature more efficiently. As ectotherms, they depend on external heat to fuel digestion, movement, and reproduction. Grouping reduces heat loss and allows individuals to reach optimal temperatures faster in the morning. The same behavior that improves metabolic performance also intensifies visual signaling, reinforcing both survival and efficiency. Feeding behavior further anchors this system. Red cotton bugs feed on seeds and plant fluids, often remaining on the same host plant for extended periods. This predictability makes them easy to locate, but it also stabilizes the warning signal in space. Predators learn not just a pattern, but a location. Certain plants, certain patches of ground, become associated with unpleasant prey. Avoidance becomes habitual, reducing predation pressure not only on adult bugs, but also on juveniles developing nearby. The environment itself becomes encoded with meaning in the predator's mind. The effectiveness of social amplification relies on consistency. The bug's coloration does not vary dramatically between individuals. Red tones remain saturated, black markings remain bold. This uniformity ensures that the signal is reliable. Predators do not need to evaluate each insect individually. Recognition is immediate. Any deviation would weaken the system, inviting testing and increasing risk. Natural selection favors individuals whose appearance aligns closely with the established pattern, reinforcing uniformity over time. From an ecological perspective, this strategy reshapes predator behavior. Predators that learn to avoid red cotton bugs redirect their foraging efforts toward other prey, altering local food webs. Less defended insects may experience increased pressure, while plants hosting cotton bugs may see reduced disturbance from predators probing for food. The presence of a well-learned warning signal can therefore influence interactions far beyond the insects themselves, subtly reorganizing energy flow within the ecosystem. There is an irony embedded in this system. In many contexts, grouping increases risk by making prey more noticeable. Schools of fish, flocks of birds, and herds of mammals trade individual safety for collective exposure. For the red cotton bug, grouping achieves the opposite. Visibility does not invite attack. It prevents it. The lie at the heart of the strategy is the assumption that being seen equates to being vulnerable. Here, being seen is what protects them. The clearer the signal, the safer the individual. This inversion challenges intuitive ideas about survival. Speed, strength, and stealth are often celebrated as the primary tools of prey species. The red cotton bug demonstrates another path, one that relies on patience, learning, and the psychology of predators. Its defense does not end when a predator approaches. It begins long before, in the accumulated memory of past encounters, in the mental shortcuts that predators use to navigate a complex world. Over generations, this strategy has proven resilient. Despite changes in landscape, shifts in predator populations, and fluctuations in climate, the red cotton bug persists, its warning colors unchanged. This stability suggests that the balance between signal and learning remains effective. Predators continue to respond as expected, and the cost of ignoring the signal remains higher than the benefit of testing it. As the camera lingers on the cluster, the bugs continue feeding, unconcerned by the open sky above them. A bird passes overhead, casting a brief shadow, but no attack follows. The warning has already been delivered, perhaps years earlier, to a different individual of the same species. Knowledge, once acquired, does not need to be repeated. The red cotton bugs remain visible, confident not because they are untouchable, but because they are understood. In an ecosystem shaped by memory as much as instinct, that understanding is the strongest shield they possess. The meadow opens wide under the afternoon sun, a place where grasses rise shoulder high and flowering plants scatter color across the air like static. Wind moves through this space in waves, bending stems, shaking seed heads, setting loose a constant shimmer of motion that makes precision difficult. To a predator scanning from above or a grazing animal passing through, this environment is alive with distractions. And suspended within it, almost invisible until the light strikes just right, hangs a structure of astonishing delicacy. A web stretched between stalks, its silk catching flashes of brightness like threads of glass. At its center sits the wasp spider, legs splayed in deliberate symmetry, body marked with stark bands of yellow, white, and black that recall the warning colors of stinging insects. It looks dangerous, it looks toxic, and that is exactly the point. The wasp spider does not rely on speed, strength, or venom delivered through a sting. Its primary weapon is silk, engineered with extraordinary precision and deployed with patience. Yet before that weapon is ever used, the spider presents a different kind of defense, one aimed outward rather than inward. The bold striping along its abdomen is not camouflage, it is a visual signal, one that exploits deep-rooted predator biases shaped by painful encounters with bees and wasps. In a meadow where many animals learn quickly which patterns are best avoided, the wasp spider wears a costume that suggests consequences. This patterning functions as a deterrent to some predators, particularly birds and small mammals that have learned to associate high-contrast yellow and black bands with stings, toxicity, or aggressive defense. The spider itself is not capable of delivering such a punishment to large attackers. But the illusion does not need to be perfect. It needs only to create hesitation. A predator that pauses, reassesses, or veers away has already failed to capitalize on the moment. For a stationary hunter like the wasp spider, time is survival. The meadow amplifies this signal. Against the greens and browns of grasses and stems, the spider's stripes stand out sharply. Sunlight enhances the contrast, making the abdomen visible even at a distance. This visibility seems counterintuitive for an ambush predator, yet the spider benefits from separating the functions of hunting and defense. The web does the hunting. The body does the warning. By decoupling these roles, the wasp spider avoids a trade-off that constrains many predators. It can be conspicuous without compromising its trap. The web itself is a masterpiece of functional design. Orb webs are not simple nets, but highly tuned capture devices composed of different silk types, each serving a specific role. The frame threads anchor the structure to surrounding vegetation, providing stability against wind. Radial lines transmit vibration, allowing the spider to detect prey movements instantly. The capture spiral, coated in sticky droplets, is engineered to absorb kinetic energy without breaking, slowing insects gradually rather than stopping them abruptly. This elasticity is critical. A rigid trap would shatter under the impact of a fast-flying insect. The wasp spider's web bends, stretches, and holds. In the center of the web, the spider often weaves a vertical zigzag pattern of dense silk, known as a stabilimentum. Its function has been debated for decades, and its role likely shifts depending on context. In some light conditions, it may make the web more visible to larger animals, preventing accidental destruction. In others, it may reflect ultraviolet light, attracting insects that perceive the pattern as a visual cue rather than an obstacle. It may also contribute to the spider's warning display, drawing attention to the web's center where the striped body waits. Whatever its precise function in a given moment, the stabilimentum adds another layer to the system, blending attraction, protection, and deception. Prey approaching the web do not perceive the spider first. They encounter silk. Flying insects navigating the meadow rely on visual cues and airflow patterns to avoid obstacles. The web is thin enough to escape detection until contact is made. When an insect strikes the capture spiral, the web responds instantly, distributing force across multiple threads. Vibrations travel along the radial lines to the spider, which reacts with remarkable speed. In a matter of moments, the wasp spider rushes forward, bites, and wraps the prey in silk, immobilizing it before it can escape or damage the web. This efficiency allows the spider to remain exposed. It does not need to retreat to a burrow or hide beneath leaves. Its trap operates continuously, even when the spider is still. The bold patterning on its body does not interfere with prey capture, because the web does the work of concealment. Insects do not evaluate the spider's appearance before striking the silk. They never get the chance. Predators, on the other hand, encounter the spider as a visual object first. Birds approaching from above may notice the striped abdomen long before they see the web. The resemblance to stinging insects triggers caution. Even if the predator is not fully convinced, the cost of a mistake feels high. The spider's stillness reinforces the illusion. Many toxic or aggressive insects remain stationary until provoked. Movement might invite inspection. Stillness invites avoidance. This double-layer system is remarkably robust. If the warning pattern deters predators, the spider survives to hunt another day. If a predator ignores the signal and attacks, the spider may still escape, dropping from the web on a safety line of silk or relying on the web's structure to create distance. Meanwhile, prey remain unaware, funneled into the web by chance and movement rather than choice. The ecology of the meadow supports this strategy. High insect diversity provides a steady supply of prey. Tall vegetation offers anchor points for large webs. Open sunlight enhances the visibility of warning patterns. The wasp spider is not merely adapted to this environment, it is integrated into it, exploiting its visual dynamics and structural complexity. There is an evolutionary elegance to the deception. The spider does not need to be toxic, it does not need to sting. It borrows the reputation of others, tapping into a shared visual language that predators have learned to respect. This is Batesian mimicry, applied not for direct survival through resemblance alone, but as a complement to an entirely different hunting strategy. The mimicry protects the hunter, while the trap remains unseen. Over time, predators that repeatedly encounter the pattern without incident may test it. Some may learn that the spider is not as dangerous as it appears, yet the system does not collapse. The web remains lethal to insects. The pattern continues to deter at least a portion of predators. Survival does not require universal success, only sufficient success. Even partial deterrence reduces predation pressure enough to maintain the population. There is a subtle irony in the wasp spider's existence. It advertises danger while delivering none to large enemies, and it kills silently, without warning to small ones. Its honesty is selective. The signal tells the truth to those it needs to deter and lies convincingly to those it needs to deceive. This selective communication reflects a broader truth in nature. Signals are not about accuracy, but about outcomes. As the wind moves through the meadow, the web sways slightly, absorbing motion without losing tension. The spider remains centered, legs poised, stripes bright against the shifting green. Somewhere nearby, a bird adjusts its course, choosing a different perch. An insect, moments later, collides with the silk and struggles, sending vibrations racing outward. The spider moves. The deception has worked on both fronts. Seen as dangerous, unseen as deadly, the wasp spider continues its quiet dominance of the air between the grasses. The camera drifts forward through a humid forest margin, where sunlight filters in from the side rather than above, illuminating invisible pathways between trunks and shrubs. The air here feels open, navigable, deceptively empty. Dragonflies patrol these corridors. Flies weave through shafts of light. Moths drift in loose arcs between feeding sites. Nothing appears to block their passage. Then, without warning, motion collapses into chaos. An insect strikes something unseen, rebounds, flails, and vanishes into a sudden storm of silk. The space that moments ago seemed clear reveals itself as occupied, engineered, and lethal. At the center of this transformation hangs the golden Silk Orb-weaver, its web stretched across open air like an ambush laid directly into the geometry of flight. The environment chosen by the golden Silk Orb-weaver is not random. These spiders do not anchor their webs deep within dense foliage, where branches and leaves already impede movement. Instead, they seek edges, gaps, and corridors. Natural flight paths used repeatedly by insects moving between feeding grounds, mating sites, and shelter. Forest edges, riverbanks, trails, and the spaces between large shrubs become highways of airborne traffic. In these zones, insects fly with confidence, relying on memory and habit as much as sensory input. The orb-weaver exploits this predictability, placing its web where avoidance behavior is weakest because expectation of obstruction is lowest. The silk itself is extraordinary. Golden Silk Orb-weaver threads possess a tensile strength that rivals steel by weight, yet remain elastic enough to absorb the kinetic energy of fast-moving prey. This combination is critical. A brittle barrier would snap on impact, freeing the insect. A rigid one would transfer force directly back to the anchor points, destabilizing the entire structure. Instead, the web behaves like a dynamic net, stretching under stress, redistributing force across radial lines and gradually slowing the prey rather than stopping it abruptly. What appears to be empty air becomes, in effect, a three-dimensional wall that yields just enough to hold. The color of the silk adds another layer to the deception. In certain light, the threads glow faintly gold, a product of the silk's molecular structure interacting with sunlight. This glow does not function as a warning. It is subtle, intermittent, and often invisible depending on angle. In shaded conditions or diffuse light, the web vanishes almost completely. In bright light, the faint sheen can resemble pollen strands or harmless reflections. To an insect moving at speed, processing limited visual information, the silk does not register as a solid object. By the time contact is made, avoidance is impossible. Impact is only the beginning. The true trap is not the web itself, but the prey's response to it. When an insect collides with the sticky spiral threads, it reacts instinctively, beating wings harder, twisting, pulling, and attempting to break free through force. Each movement triggers a cascade of consequences. Wings strike additional threads, legs adhere to new contact points, and the sticky droplets stretch into long filaments that wrap and bind. The more the prey struggles, the more surface area becomes entangled. Panic accelerates the very process it seeks to escape. This behavior is predictable, and the web is designed to exploit it. The spiral threads are coated with viscoelastic glue that behaves differently under slow and fast stress. Gentle contact may allow an insect to pull away. Rapid movement increases adhesion. The spider does not need to rush immediately. It can wait, sensing vibrations through radial lines that transmit detailed information about the prey's size, location, and intensity of struggle. The web itself performs the work of restraint, converting motion into entanglement. Golden silk orb-weavers often build webs large enough to intercept sizable insects, including dragonflies and large moths. These prey items carry significant energy and pose a risk if not subdued quickly. The spider's strategy balances patience with precision. Once the prey has exhausted itself through struggle, the spider approaches, delivering a venomous bite that immobilizes without destroying the web. Silk wrapping follows, further restricting movement and preserving the prey for later consumption. The entire sequence unfolds with minimal damage to the structure, allowing the web to remain functional for future captures. The placement of these webs reflects a deep understanding, shaped by evolution rather than cognition, of insect behavior. Insects prefer efficient routes. They avoid dense vegetation where wings may snag and predators may lurk. Open air feels safe. The orb-weaver turns that preference into vulnerability. By spanning these corridors, the spider converts behavioral efficiency into risk. The prey's trust in open space becomes the trap's foundation. This strategy also affects predator interactions. Birds and larger animals are capable of seeing the web and avoiding it, especially after initial encounters. The golden silk's faint visibility in certain light may even serve to prevent accidental destruction by large creatures, preserving the web's integrity. Yet smaller predators that rely less on vision or approach from unexpected angles may still blunder into the structure. The spider's survival does not depend on complete invisibility, only on remaining unseen by those it hunts, while being noticed by those that might destroy its work. The ecological impact of this web extends beyond individual predation events. By intercepting flying insects, the orb-weaver influences pollination patterns, insect population dynamics, and energy transfer within the ecosystem. Each captured insect represents a redirection of biomass from the aerial food web into the spider's own growth and reproduction. Over time, this shapes the composition of insect communities along these corridors, favoring species that alter flight height, timing, or route to avoid interception. The spider itself is adapted to this exposed lifestyle. Golden silk orb-weavers are often large, conspicuous animals, their bodies visible at the center of the web. They rely less on concealment and more on the safety provided by distance and web placement. Potential predators must navigate the silk barrier to reach them, a risky proposition. The web becomes both trap and shield, extending the spider's influence beyond its physical body. Environmental conditions further refine this system. Wind, humidity, and temperature all affect silk performance. The spider adjusts web tension and placement accordingly, repairing damage and reinforcing key lines as needed. In high humidity, silk remains supple and sticky. In drier conditions, the spider may rebuild more frequently to maintain effectiveness. This ongoing maintenance reflects an energetic investment that pays off through reliable prey capture. There is a subtle lesson embedded in this strategy. The golden silk orb-weaver does not chase prey. It does not overpower through speed or aggression. It reshapes the environment so that prey behavior does the work. By placing a barrier where none is expected, it transforms empty space into an active hunting surface. The prey's own instincts, flight, panic, resistance, become liabilities rather than assets. As the camera lingers on the web, the air appears calm once more. Insects resume their routes, unaware of the invisible architecture waiting ahead. Another collision occurs, another burst of movement, another lesson in how space itself can be weaponized. The golden silk orb-weaver remains still at the center, legs lightly touching radial threads, feeling the world rather than seeing it. In this ecosystem, danger does not always announce itself through teeth, venom, or speed. Sometimes it is suspended quietly in the air, turning nothing into something and letting behavior finish the job. The air above a summer garden trembles with motion that feels almost mechanical, a blur suspended in place rather than passing through. Flowers sway gently under the weight of heat, their nectar hidden deep within narrow tubes, and suddenly a shape arrives that does not land. It stops. Wings vanish into transparency, body held steady as if pinned to the air itself. At first glance, the mind reaches for the wrong category. This looks like a bird. The posture, the hovering, the purposeful probing of flowers all point toward a hummingbird. Then the illusion fractures just enough to reveal the truth. This is a moth. A Hummingbird Hawk-moth, hovering in plain sight, rewriting the rules of how a moth is supposed to move. The environment in which this behavior unfolds is open and exposed. Gardens, meadows, and forest edges offer nectar-rich flowers but little cover. Predators patrol these spaces relentlessly. Birds scan from perches and in flight, their vision optimized for tracking moving targets. Reptiles and small mammals watch from below, alert to any lapse in speed or control. For most moths, survival here depends on darkness, erratic flight, or sheer invisibility. The Hummingbird Hawk-moth chooses none of these. It operates in daylight, feeds openly, and remains conspicuously active. Its defense is not concealment, but motion discipline so precise that predators struggle to interpret it. Hovering is the foundation of this deception. Unlike most insects, which rely on forward motion to stay aloft, the Hummingbird Hawk-moth can generate lift while remaining nearly stationary. Its wings beat at extraordinary speed, tracing a figure-8 pattern that produces both lift and thrust on each stroke. This allows the moth to hold position in front of a flower, adjusting its body angle and wing motion continuously to counteract wind and turbulence. The result is a stable hover that appears effortless, yet demands immense muscular output and fine motor control. This hovering is not static. The moth is constantly making micro-adjustments, tiny shifts in position, measured in fractions of a body length. These movements are not random. They are responses to air currents, flower movement, and the moth's own feeding actions. To a predator attempting to lock onto a target, this creates a nightmare scenario. The moth is never fully still, yet never moving predictably forward. Its position updates constantly, denying the predator a stable trajectory to aim for. Predators that hunt visually rely on prediction as much as perception. A bird attacking an insect calculates where the prey will be moments into the future, adjusting its strike accordingly. This works well against insects that fly in arcs, lines, or bursts. The Hummingbird Hawk-moth breaks this logic. Its micro-movements shift its center of mass unpredictably, forcing constant recalculation. By the time a predator commits to an attack, the moth is no longer where it was expected to be. Even a slight delay or miscalculation can result in a miss, and misses are costly. Each failed strike expends energy and risks collision or counterattack. The moth's body design supports this flight style. Its thoracic muscles are exceptionally developed, packed densely to power rapid wing beats. Unlike insects that rely on elastic recoil or passive wing motion, the Hummingbird Hawk-moth actively controls each stroke. Sensory input from the wings, antennae, and eyes feeds into a nervous system capable of processing information at remarkable speed. This allows the moth to react almost instantaneously to changes in airflow or threat direction, altering wing amplitude or frequency in real time. Vision plays a critical role here. The Hummingbird Hawk-moth possesses keen eyesight adapted for daylight activity. Its compound eyes can resolve color and motion well enough to track flowers while hovering and to detect approaching threats from multiple angles. This visual acuity is unusual among moths, many of which are adapted primarily for low-light conditions. By shifting into the diurnal niche, the hawk moth has adopted not just a new schedule, but a new sensory toolkit. The resemblance to a hummingbird is not superficial. The feeding behavior mirrors that of its avian counterpart. A long proboscis unfurls and probes deep into flowers, while the moth remains airborne. This allows access to nectar sources unavailable to insects that must land. The flower itself becomes a fueling station rather than a perch. This efficiency reduces exposure time. The moth can feed quickly, moving from flower to flower without the vulnerable moments required to take off again. Each feeding bout is a brief interaction, minimizing the window during which predators can plan an attack. This flight style also blurs predator expectations. Many predators categorize prey based on broad movement patterns. Birds behave one way, insects behave another. The Hummingbird Hawk-moth occupies an uncomfortable middle ground. Its size, wing beat, and hovering behavior mimic a bird closely enough to trigger hesitation in predators that specialize in insects. At the same time, it lacks the mass and predictability of a true bird, confounding predators that might otherwise attempt to intercept it. This is not classic mimicry of appearance, but of behavior. The deception lies in how it moves through space. Energy demands for such flight are enormous. Hovering requires continuous power output, and the moth's metabolism reflects this. It must feed frequently, sometimes visiting hundreds of flowers in a single day. This need drives its boldness. Waiting until dusk would limit feeding opportunities. Instead, the moth embraces daylight, trusting its flight performance to compensate for increased visibility. The trade-off is clear: higher energy intake balanced against higher exposure. Evolution has tipped the balance in favor of motion. Environmental conditions further shape this strategy. Warm temperatures enhance muscle performance and wing efficiency, making hovering easier. Wind introduces challenges, but also opportunities. Skilled hoverers can exploit updrafts and turbulence to reduce energy costs, riding invisible currents while maintaining position. The hawk moth's sensitivity to airflow allows it to adjust instantly, turning a chaotic environment into a manageable one. Predator responses reflect this complexity. Some birds attempt pursuit, only to abandon the chase after repeated failures. Others learn to ignore the moth entirely, focusing on easier prey. This learned avoidance reinforces the moth's safety, even though it lacks chemical defenses or physical weapons. Survival emerges from difficulty rather than danger. The moth is not harmful. It is simply hard to catch. The ecological consequences of this behavior extend beyond predator avoidance. As an efficient pollinator, the Hummingbird Hawk-moth plays a significant role in plant reproduction. Its hovering allows it to pollinate flowers that rely on precise positioning and depth. Plants adapted to bird pollination can also benefit from these moths, especially in regions where true hummingbirds are absent or scarce. In this way, the moth fills an ecological role through behavioral convergence, linking separate evolutionary lineages through shared function. There is an understated irony in how obvious the moth appears to human observers. Its buzzing wings, bold movement, and daytime activity make it one of the most noticed moths in any landscape. To humans, it is memorable, even charming. To predators, it is frustrating. Visibility does not equate to vulnerability when motion cannot be decoded. The moth survives not by hiding from attention, but by overwhelming it with complexity. As the camera follows the hawk-moth from flower to flower, its body remains steady while the world moves around it. A bird darts past, overshooting its mark. The moth shifts, hovers, feeds, and departs, never landing, never slowing. In this ecosystem, deception does not always involve false colors or exaggerated threats. Sometimes, it is a matter of behaving so differently from expectation that predators cannot adapt quickly enough. The hummingbird hawk-moth lives in that gap, suspended between categories, surviving not by being unseen, but by being impossible to pin down. The forest floor is quiet in a way that feels deceptive. Leaves lie layered and still, broken only by shafts of light that reach the ground in narrow columns. Bark fragments, moss and seed husks form a textured surface where small movements are easy to miss, and sudden ones are magnified. Among this clutter, a shieldbug moves slowly across a leaf, its body flattened and angular, colored in muted greens and browns that echo the vegetation around it. At first it appears unremarkable, another small herbivore navigating the margins of the ecosystem. But its most important defense is not visible, and it does not announce itself until the moment it is needed. Predators hunting in this environment rely on more than sight. Birds drop down from above, guided by movement and contrast. Small mammals forage by scent as much as vision. Reptiles sample the air with tongues tuned to chemical cues. In such a sensory-rich world, information arrives from many channels at once, and survival depends on interpreting it correctly. The shieldbug has evolved to exploit one of these channels with remarkable efficiency. When threatened, it releases a chemical signal so potent that it reshapes a predator's behavior long after the encounter has ended. The mechanism is simple in execution, but profound in effect. Specialized glands along the shieldbug's body produce volatile compounds that can be expelled as a fine spray. The volume is tiny, measured in fractions of a droplet, yet the impact is immediate. The chemicals are sharp, acrid, and persistent, clinging to mucous membranes and triggering strong aversive reactions. A bird that pecks at a shieldbug may recoil instantly, shaking its head, wiping its beak against branches or the ground in an attempt to rid itself of the sensation. The encounter is brief, but the memory is not. Unlike visual warnings, which require recognition and interpretation, smell bypasses many cognitive filters. It is processed rapidly and linked closely to emotion and memory. For predators, an unpleasant odor is not merely information. It is an experience. The shieldbug's spray creates a learning event that is difficult to ignore or forget. One exposure can be enough to establish long-term avoidance, altering the predator's future decisions across multiple encounters and environments. This is the heart of the shieldbug's strategy. It does not need to escape. It does not need to injure or kill. It needs only to make itself memorable in the worst possible way. The predator survives the encounter, but its behavior changes. Future shieldbugs benefit from this altered perception, even if they are never directly encountered by the same predator again. The defense operates through time, not force. The chemistry behind this defense varies among species, but the principle remains consistent. Many shieldbugs produce aldehydes and other compounds that irritate sensory tissues. These chemicals disperse quickly in air, creating a localized cloud that reaches the predator before physical contact is completed. In some cases, the spray is aimed with surprising accuracy, directed toward the attacker's face. In others, it simply fills the immediate space, ensuring contact, regardless of angle. The effect is not subtle. Predators respond with behaviors that indicate strong discomfort, retreating rapidly and abandoning the attack. What makes this system especially effective is its reliability. The shieldbug does not bluff. The chemical defense is always present, always deployable. Predators that test it receive the same outcome each time. There is no ambiguity, no partial reinforcement that might encourage repeated sampling. This consistency strengthens learning, making avoidance more robust and longer lasting. In evolutionary terms, this reduces the need for speed or armor. The bug invests energy in chemical production instead, a strategy that pays off through reduced predation pressure. The environment reinforces this effect. On the forest floor, scents linger. Leaves and bark absorb and release odors slowly, extending the presence of the chemical signal beyond the moment of attack. A predator may encounter the scent again minutes or hours later, reinforcing the association between the shieldbug's appearance and the unpleasant experience. The habitat itself becomes part of the warning system, carrying traces of the encounter forward in time. This olfactory strategy also complements visual camouflage. Shieldbugs are often well blended with their surroundings, relying on coloration and stillness to avoid detection in the first place. The chemical defense is a backup, deployed only when camouflage fails. This layered approach reduces the frequency with which the spray is needed, conserving resources while maintaining effectiveness. When the defense is used, it is decisive. Predator learning driven by smell can be broader than learning driven by sight alone. While visual signals often require precise pattern recognition, odors can generalize. A predator that learns to associate a particular smell with discomfort may avoid not only the specific species encountered, but other insects that produce similar odors or occupy similar habitats. This generalization expands the protective effect, creating a chemical halo of safety around the shieldbug's ecological niche. The shieldbug's confidence in this system is evident in its behavior. It moves deliberately, rarely rushing, often remaining exposed on leaves or stems while feeding. When approached, it may freeze rather than flee, relying on the threat of chemical retaliation rather than speed. This behavior conserves energy and reduces the risk of attracting attention through movement. The defense does not depend on timing or accuracy in the same way as physical escape. It depends on inevitability. There is an ecological trade-off embedded here. Producing and storing chemical defenses requires resources. Shieldbugs must feed on plants that provide the necessary precursors, and their diet influences the potency of their spray. This creates a link between plant chemistry and insect defense, weaving the shieldbug into a network of chemical relationships that span multiple trophic levels. Plants evolve compounds to deter herbivores. Some insects co-opt those compounds for their own protection. Predators learn to navigate this chemical landscape, shaping their diets accordingly. The learning process does not end with a single predator. In many species, avoidance behavior can be socially reinforced. Birds observing the distress of others may learn to avoid similar prey without direct contact. Even without direct observation, the reduction in successful attacks on shieldbugs can shift predator foraging patterns over time, reducing pressure on the population as a whole. The shieldbug wins not by defeating its enemy, but by educating it. There is a quiet irony in how invisible this defense is to human observers. Smell is a secondary sense for humans, often overlooked in favor of sight. To a predator, it is central. The shieldbug's most powerful weapon leaves no visible trace, no dramatic display. It operates silently, shaping decisions that unfold later, elsewhere. Its success is measured not in immediate survival alone, but in the absence of future attacks. As the camera follows the shieldbug across the leaf, a bird lands nearby, tilting its head, assessing. The bug does not flee. A moment passes, then the bird moves on, choosing a different target. Whether this decision is driven by memory, instinct, or learned association is impossible to know in the moment. What is clear is that the shieldbug remains alive, its presence unchallenged. In this ecosystem, victory does not always belong to the fastest or the strongest. Sometimes it belongs to the organism that can reach into the future, altering the choices of others before those choices are even made. The shieldbug's defense does exactly that. By turning a brief encounter into a lasting lesson, it reshapes the predator's world, ensuring that the cost of attacking once is paid many times over in avoidance. The message is invisible, but its impact echoes through every decision that follows.